Innovators program. This is a little informational webinar today about the Young Women's Initiative and just to learn a little bit more about the Women's Foundation. And so I'm so grateful that you are here today. If you haven't done so already, please put in the chat your name, your pronoun, and how you heard about the Innovator program. It could be LinkedIn, it could be your sister, cousin, anybody. We just want to continue to understand like how is our advertisement reaching you to learn more about the work. So just please do that for us. We will be so grateful. Next slide. So you're going to hear from a couple of us today. So I'll introduce myself. I'm LaCora Bradford Kesty. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Vice President of Community Impact here at the Women's Foundation. And you're also going to hear from Janet, and I'm going to let Janet introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to see so many of you joining us today. My name is Janet Jimenez. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Dr. Retha Clark King Fellow at the Women's Foundation. And alongside that, my role at the foundation is to also be the Young Women's Initiative Program Manager. So you'll hear from me in terms of some of the programs around the Young Women's Initiative. So I'm very happy to see you all here. Next slide. I'll share a little bit about the overview of today's webinar. Starting off, we will share a little bit about the Women's Foundation of Minnesota and what we do, as well as share more details about the Young Women's Initiative and how it formed and all of that. Next, we'll go into the Innovators program and go share more overview on that program specific. Then we'll go into application and timeline. We'll review application components, online web portal process, and share more details on the timeline. Lastly, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A where we'll be able to answer questions and learn more about any of your thoughtful questions that you have today. So thank you so much for joining once again. Next slide.
This one's me. I am here to give you a high-level overview of the Women's Foundation, our mission, our vision, our values. Really, at the heart of our work, we remain steadfast on transforming the future for women and girls and gender expansive people. We got our start really as a donor advised fund from the Minneapolis Foundation almost 40 years ago. So we talk about our founding mothers being like, no, we're just not going to stay over there at the Minneapolis Foundation. We're going to break out and do our own because, as I think some of you all know, women were under researched, were underrepresented in media. And so this is kind of like our history of being bold, starting with hope, leading with hope, generosity, courage, inclusion, and belonging. Our mission really is to be a statewide community foundation that invests in ending systemic inequities and driving innovation for gender and racial justice. And we try to stay true to that in all the work that we do. Next is a little bit about the program. So, the Young Women's Initiative is an incredible program. We launched with a partnership with the governor's office in 2016. And our Young Women's Initiative centers the leadership and solutions of young Black, Indigenous, and women of color, women from Greater Minnesota, our LGBTQ plus youth, and young women with disabilities. And our aim is to really eliminate the barriers young women and gender expansive people face every single day. And so our initiative is a systems change model really grounded in the voices and experiences of young women from our 8 specific communities. So, amongst the programs that have been formed out of the Young Women's Initiative, we have a statewide cabinet, we have a Mankato regional cabinet, and then we have our Innovators program. And so these programs really all stem from listening from around the state and asking young women what are their hopes, what are their dreams, as well as what are we asking them around their barriers that are standing in their ways to be able to live their full prosperous lives. And one thing I also want to shout out is that from inception, this program has really been centered by young women for young women and non-binary folks. We worked with URock. If y'all not familiar with URock, they're on the north side of Minneapolis. They're an urban research and design institution connected to the University of Minnesota. And we surveyed, I think, over 600 young women and asking them, what again are some of the most important things in your life right now that you want to have access to change or make better? And they gave us these amazing recommendations, and we call them the blueprint for action. And so because of the blueprint for action research, we're still trying to make sure all most of it is still relevant. And I think you all know climate was big, harmful narratives is big, being having healthy partners and relationships is big. So these recommendations really informed how we want to continue to do the work and stay true to the young women who gave their insights, their expertise to make sure that this program was going to be successful in the long run.
Thank you. As Lacora shared previously in the other slide, from these listening sessions, the Blueprint for Action was formed and was created, which essentially helps guide the lots of the program, all the programs within the Young Women's Initiative, including the Innovators program. So through the goals that are mentioned in this Blueprint for Action, three of them are on the screen: building pathways to economic opportunity, improving safety and well-being, promoting young women's leadership. Um, these three goals work together to shift systems and strengthen the ecosystem to create the conditions for young women and communities to thrive using the systems change model, which was mentioned. Um, so not only are we asking young women who are part of the program to take action through the systems change work to increase access to equal opportunity and equity in those outcomes. So, as a Women's Foundation innovator, you and your projects are essentially shifting institutions, are working towards shifting institutions, laws, policies, by reframing issues through community relationships and movement building. So through these recommendations and goals on the screen, you'll have your project should further one goal and address one or more of the focus areas that are on the screen. But I encourage you also to check out the Blueprint for Action. There's way more goals and recommendations that were stemmed from the conversations that were had by young women.
100%. Thank you so much, Janet and Lacora, for that lead up, right? It was really amazing work that the Women's Foundation and the Young Women's Initiative is doing. I just want to shout them out because it's Lacora, Janet, Alexa is also on our call today from the Women's Foundation. The work that they're doing in Minnesota to further, the impact in the lives of women is just so phenomenal. This is one of our favorite program. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'll introduce my colleagues too. So you have the Women's Foundation, you have the Young Women's Initiative, and you have these amazing programs that they're running. One of the programs, which you're all here to learn about, is the Innovators program. And Cam, myself, and Shawnee run the Innovators program on the instructional side. So my name is Naomi Arroyo. I'm managing partner of an organization called Floreo Labs. Cam is our founder, so I'm going to let him introduce the lab and talk a little bit more about that. But just so you all know, I am one of the lead facilitators, so I'll be one of the people. If you apply to the program, which we really hope that you do, we'll be doing convenings together. I'll be helping you with your project hands-on. You'll also have access to our whole lab team to support you every step of the way with the project that you are trying to get into the world. My background is in education. I was once a young innovator. My first innovation was an arts program that I wanted to stand up in a community center in Spanish Harlem because I'm originally from the Bronx, New York. And this is the program I wish I had then. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing was, impact work, nonprofit work. I was like, I made a little nonprofit with my best friend and we just had no idea. We're like, this is so cool. Everybody needs art, right? And so this program is really the program that I wish that me and my peers had when we were young, to help us realize our dreams, but also realize the longevity of those dreams and how we can stand up a small idea to be something that has a really big ripple effect. And anybody that knows me that has done the program know I get very invested. I cried at our last convening because everybody's projects and their progress was just so inspiring. I just could not hold it together. And so this is a program that we really, really care about. We love leading this program year over year. And we're just so grateful to be able to do it for another year and to have so many people sign up for this webinar, and hopefully so many people that will apply. We're really excited to put together another really dope cohort for 2026, 2027. So with that, I'm gonna pass it off to Cam to introduce himself, and then Shani too. If you want to introduce yourself, please feel free. Although no pressure, sis, because Shani's our like stealth ops person in the back, so gotta respect that. But Cam, feel free to introduce yourself and the lab.
Got you, no problem. Hey everyone, my name is Cam Flowers. I am really excited to be here and grateful to the Women's Foundation for another year of partnership on this really amazing program, which is the Innovators program. Like Naomi said, we started Floreo Labs in 2019 after both having separate careers and separate experiences as innovators and growing innovators, let's say, right? Um, my experience, I am originally from Chicago, and like many folks in the Midwest, I think we always hear about innovation happening outside of the Midwest and think that we have to go somewhere else to tap into creative or these ambitious dreams that we have. I was one of those students. I went to school in Massachusetts, and when you're surrounded by all these big schools and things, you think that innovation has to happen in these spaces. Um, my biggest passion is really in seeing the world be a better place. I ain't gonna hold y'all. I look at the world around me, and maybe y'all have had folks tell you that thing about leave the world or leave this space better than you found it kind of thing. That attitude is the attitude that I have toward everything. So I'm always thinking about how to make something better, right? I'm that person in my friend group, maybe y'all are too, who my friends come with problems, and I'm like, here's the solution. Here's what you should be doing different. And so those skills are skills that translate into innovation. And like, there's a whole career, there's a whole professional journey you can go on right now as a young person if you know that. And what excites me and Naomi about this program and why we started a lab was to give you a space to explore innovation, both personally and professionally, so that you can learn these skills and take it to whatever heights you want. Whether that is being entrepreneurs like Naomi and myself and starting your own businesses, whether that's in being a community organizer that understands how to launch and create new programs and services for the people that you care about, or whether that's like, hey, I'm going to be going into college or going into the workforce, and I want to think like someone who can make change, right? And do it in a way that's professionally valued. Naomi and I laugh about the fact that she cried at the last convening, but every time we host the program, we get excited because we get to help you all cultivate the spark of like, I want to change something for the better and make it actually reality. And the lab was built to do that. Over all the years of being in business, we've helped people launch dozens of businesses, hundreds of different types of organizations. And what we get the most joy in is like learning about what you want to build in the world and helping you have all the resources, tools, and support needed to do that. So you can look at Naomi and I as like your team in helping you build whatever it is you're dreaming about. There's no idea that's too big or too small. We've seen them all, and we're happy to help you make yours a reality. And yeah, the lab is really built as a purpose-built institution to support this specific type of work. So it's a home for y'all, and we're grateful to the Women's Foundation for always giving us an opportunity to expand the way that we can serve the community in Minneapolis and greater Minnesota, because we know that, as y'all have seen, a lot of crazy stuff is happening in the country, and Minnesota is right at the center of it. So y'all are already thinking about how should this be different, right? We're happy to give you a space to explore that in an active way that can serve you for the rest of your life in a positive way. So thank you so much, and I'll pass it back to Neil.
Thanks, Cam. I really appreciate that. Queue up. Shani, I just want to give you an opportunity if you want to introduce yourself, and then we will move on to talk about the program.
Oh, thank you, Naomi. Hey everyone. I'm Shani, and I'm the executive operations lead. And right now, I'm just supporting the application process. And if you guys have any questions that come up, or you need help along the way, I'm here as a resource.
1000%. Yeah, thank you so much, Shani. You're the bomb.com and honestly did an amazing job helping us build the application. Like she said, we're going to put everybody's contact information on the screen. So if you, when you're applying, have any issues or questions, Shani is your go-to contact. So with that, I'm going to talk in the next couple slides about the program, but I'm not even going to hold you. The most important part of today's session is going to be hearing from the innovators themselves. So we have some amazing folks who are joining us today. I'm going to just shout them out real quick. Amina, Naomi, Jenna, Rio. And then if anybody else jumped in the chat, but I was talking, I'm going to shout you out later. But I want you all to get a chance to hear from past and current innovators who have been in your shoes and they've done the work of being in the program. I think they're, in the spirit of being youth led, they're going to give you the most kind of perspective. And so with that, how do we stay in connecting with you? If we have questions, we're going to, like I said, give you the emails. So you'll have our emails. And then if you have any questions now, please feel free to drop them in the chat. There's also going to be a Q&A after the panel, so we can kind of talk things through. But if you need your question answered right away, you need to get it off your mind, just drop it in the chat for us. All right, so the program, the curriculum of what we do together and what you learn is funneled up in what we call our Lab Accelerator program. We developed this program, I should say specifically, Cam built this program in 2019, actually for high schoolers who are looking for a way to bring their innovations to life. But everywhere they looked, it was like, learn how to code or, go to a college course and you're just like learning this very particular thing in theory, but you don't actually leave with the built innovation that you had in mind. So he created the Lab Accelerator course. It's a series of modular lessons, right, that help aspiring change makers launch early stage ventures or early stage impact initiatives. And really the purpose of this was to lower the risk, right, and the cost, because a lot of times if you want to go build something, you got to hire some engineers. If you want to go start something, you have to hire some consultants, and it's very expensive. And then there's a lot of risk because you may or may not get the thing that you want. So that's kind of like the theory behind the curriculum that we built. It's designed to help you in the months of the program. We kind of walk through all of the lessons of this program to help you develop a business or an impact model. So some of you will have ideas for actual businesses. Some of you will have ideas for programs or just kind of like events that you want to hold, right? All of those things have a model of change. So we help you build that and identify your early adopters. Now, when I say early adopters, those could be your first couple customers. It could be the partner that you're going to partner with to host your workshop. It could be the first couple of people who are going to test the thing that you are thinking about creating and give you feedback, right? So we talk you through the process of how to build that community of early adopters and how to build that model for change for your idea. And then we also help you grow that idea into research and grow that idea into a tested prototype. So the point is that by the end of the program, you will have deployed the funds that you receive to actually research, build, and test some version of the idea that you have. And really, again, we're trying to have you save time and money. So if there's any way, we're really here to help you think about, well, this is my idea. How do I get from point A to point B? How do I spend this grant in a way that's actually cost effective and smart, right? Because we want you to be able to leverage your funds in a smart way. The skills that you build. So over the course of the program, and the innovators who are going to talk in a little bit, y'all can hold me to the fire on this. We set out to help you learn skills in marketing, communications, project management. R&D stands for research and development. Things like data analysis, and of course, leadership development is super important to us. And then we're also at times learning about creative technology. And we had a workshop about AI and how to prototype with AI, right? So we are trying to incorporate all those things and be actually really adaptive to like what's going on in the world because everything is changing so fast. And our goal is to help you walk away with skills that you can not only put into this project, but flip for the rest of your life, whether that's for your school, for your career, or, just to help you make something in your life that you want to make better, work better. So that's the program as a whole. At the beginning, everybody gets like the curriculum map. So you'll learn like kind of what we'll be learning at each month. And we have these convenings, which I'll talk about in just a second. Okay. So the Innovators program, it was launched in 2018. You get a one-time grant of 3K. Well, actually, the way we do it's a grant of 3K, and this year we experimented with splitting it up into 2 payments for a number of reasons. So if you get a one-time grant of 3K, you have to pay taxes on all 3K in the year that you get it. And you also have to think about it can be a lot to receive a grant of that size. So this year we kind of work the program so you have an option to split your payments up, lower your tax liability. We can talk about that in the Q&A. So it is one grant of 3K, but you can choose how you receive it. It's for anyone ages 16 to 24. And the goal, like we talked about, is to advance those key recommendations from the Blueprint for Action. The program, again, is a year-long program. So it starts August. You'll get your notification of acceptance into the program in August, and we'll have monthly convenings, either virtual or in person, from August all the way to June. And then you get support into August 2027 to finish spending your grant. So it's a really, you have a long amount of time with the resources that we provide to really bring your idea to life, stand it up, test it, make it better, etc.
Naomi, can I add one more thing?
Please.
I like to be transparent with anybody applying to any application to the Women's Foundation. We use a participatory grant making model. So when people are reviewing your applications, it's going to be other young people from the other programs that we mentioned. So the cabinet, which is working again with the governor's office, and they are creating their own program and they have their own training and learning, very similar to the Innovators program. And then they're going to help us make the decision. So they're going to be reading your applications alongside us at the foundation. So it's other young folks also looking and reviewing. So it's just not just some random people selected, but it's also the same demographic who's applying. It's the same demographic who's going to be helping us make decisions.
Thank you so much for that, because it's super important to know like who does decide our cohort. It is young people and people involved in the programming of the Women's Foundation. I also just want to make clear that so the program is structured, we have a convening every month. There are 4 in-person convenings for the program, and they happen quarterly. Typically, it's October, January, April, and June. So there's one in-person requirement a quarter, and then every other convening is going to be, it's about an hour and a half virtual sessions in the months that we don't meet in person. And that is where we come together, we get progress updates, we do some community building, but you also are doing leadership development, skill building, perhaps prototyping, right? Like that is where the curriculum of the lab actually gets put into practice. And then you also get one-on-one coaching. So that's available to you a month over month. At any point in time, if you get stuck, you can always reach out and get some coaching to help you move through the blocks. Yeah, in person is so fun. It's literally the highlight. We try to make our virtual sessions, as you can see, like light, airy, fun, energetic, but there's nothing like being in the room with everybody. It's just like the best. And lunch is catered and we just get to do some really cool things. There's also youth-led workshops that we do. So typically in the second or third convening, there's workshops that we start to incorporate from the innovators themselves. So if you have an idea for like a workshop that is your project, you can test it out and kind of like share it with the rest of the cohort in one of those convenings. So these are guidelines. Excuse me. These are guidelines and eligibility. Again, the funding is a $3,000 investment to support your project. Your funds must be used within the 12 months, and we can help you with that because that can be a little tricky for folks. So we can help you with planning how to spend that budget. Again, participation, we just ask that you come to the convenings. It's pretty simple. And we also invite you to make use of the coaching because it really often is the thing that can help you get unblocked. The demographics, of course, you have to be between the ages of 16 and 24, identifying as a young woman or gender expansive person, although this is open to everyone. You have to live and create impact in Minnesota. That is a requirement. And then in terms of the demographics, definitely prioritizing Black, Indigenous, Latin, Asian, Pacific Islander, LGBTQ+, folks with disabilities, and anyone in Greater Minnesota. Citizenship is not a requirement to participate in this program. And then with that, I kind of rushed through because I'm happy to answer any question that you have about the program. But again, I feel like the people who are going to give you the most perspective on what it's like to be an innovator are the beautiful faces that you see on the screen. I see we have a question. Okay, I see that it was answered. Wonderful. Okay. So I want to introduce our innovators. We have we may or may not have Heritage. I don't recall. Heritage, if you are not here, we love you, sis. We have Rio. I definitely see Rio here. Amina, Naomi, and Jenna, who represent past and present innovators and are going to share a little bit about their experience in the cohort and what it was like to be an innovator. So I guess the first thing we'll do, I'm going to work to pin all of your faces so we can see them. And I guess to start, let's just go around and everyone can introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your project, the project that you built in the cohort. Maybe let's start just like on the screen. So maybe we go Rio, Amina, Naomi, and Jenna.
Hi everyone, my name is Rio. It's lovely to see all the potential people. You guys are in good hands. I've enjoyed my time here. Um, I started off with the project that was around wellness and kind of care delivery that evolved into me making my first film, which became a pilot of its own, which I'm really excited about. Since that program, I have launched my business and now I'm working to create aromatherapy products. And so this program has really launched me into being self-driven, self-employed, and creating products that are now available for other people. And I give many, many thanks to the support and structure that the Women's Foundation and the Floreo Labs have provided me. So thank you.
Thanks, Rio. We'll pass it to Amina.
Hi, my name is Mina Noor, and I am currently an innovator with the Innovators program. I'm working on creating like a modest fashion brand for women who choose to dress modestly yet struggle to find clothing from like mainstream retailers or like any in-person options as well. And I'd say I'm really grateful for the Innovators program because I feel like this program itself, like it provided me a lot of like knowledge and like resources that I probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for Naomi and Cam. And I feel like it also opened like a lot of doors for me. Like this program, you know, like my project is like I'm doing a lot of things outside of the program, and I feel like I wouldn't have gotten to this point if it wasn't for the Innovators program. So I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much, Amina. I just got to shout you out. She won third place in the state for DECA. Am I correct? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Big old trophy, y'all, on the project that she put together in the Innovators program. She did that all on her own. I take no credit. Amazing. But yeah, like the idea is that you can start something and take it and run.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can pass it to Naomi.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited for all of you. My project has changed a lot, but essentially it's creating an environment for art and wellness for Black women who are anxious and ambitious. And I think that's one thing that really comes to my mind. Like your project is going to change probably a lot. Like you probably have amazing, great ideas right now, but with more information, it will shift, but I think in really good ways. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about my experience with all of you.
Thanks so much, Naomi. I got to shout out Naomi because she also just led an amazing workshop for us at our last convening. She took this idea that she had for, from her project and actually built and piloted one of these workshops, and we just all had an amazing time. We made dopamine menus, and now we all have these toolkits in our own lives to be as cool, calm, and collected as Naomi is on a day-to-day basis. Like, just spreading the joy, sis. Thank you so much. And we'll pass it off to Jenna to introduce herself.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Genevieve or Jenna Orca. I use she, her pronouns. I started a girls' club at my school around a year ago, and I wanted to continue to expand my club and expand my members and just promote more leadership opportunities around my school. But I didn't have the funds to do so. So, using the Women's Foundation grant, I was able to host 2 separate events this year in relation to crafts with art. And so that's kind of just the gist of what I've been up to. But I did also want to mention that this organization, and specifically this program has so many extra opportunities that are outside of anything I've ever seen in my life. So it's not just the grant itself, it's not just the project, but it's the opportunities, the networking. It's so amazing. I even brought up what we made or what we had learned at our last meeting about our strengths, and we got to take a test and figure out our best strengths. So I'd say my project definitely has been more than just the project itself. It's been everything that they have given us through the project has taught me a lot more as well, not just what I have taught other people.
And that is truly the word. That's how I feel every time I jump on a coaching call. And I think I've said this to a lot of people. I'm like, dang, I sat down here to help you and you've helped me just in sharing of your wisdom and like your experiences. And I think that really is the essence of what I find so powerful about the cohort is the relationships that you're building and like the shared knowledge that we get to build together. I'm curious, y'all, and I forgot to shout out. Well, first of all, Jenna is what I'm calling LinkedIn queen because like the way that you leverage LinkedIn to shout from the rooftops about what you're doing, the wonderful work that you're doing. I know LaCour was talking about LinkedIn. Jenna has done such an amazing job like spreading the word about the impact of your project. And I have no doubt that some people have seen it and probably ended up on this webinar because of that. So shout outs to you, sis. And then I also forgot to shout out Rio. We had some coffee because once you're an innovator, I really do mean it. We're in the lab for life. Like you can literally hit us up for anything. You want to have a coffee, you want a referral. I can't tell you the amount of recommendation letters I've written. People are getting into law school from the program. Like it really just is a springboard for so many cool things, not to mention the impact you make. But I got to connect with Rio and the prototypes that they have already put together are just so cool. I cannot wait to be able to buy it. You know what I'm saying? So big shout outs to everybody who's on this panel right now. Y'all have done such amazing work. I guess if anybody has any questions for the innovators, feel free to drop them. I don't need to hog all the questions, but I do want to ask y'all to talk a little bit about like your journey from the beginning when you first started and like now, because I know a lot of you are still in the program, but can you just talk a little bit about like the growth or the things that, you know, you've learned from the beginning of the program to like where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, I could go first. So basically, when I started like applying for the Innovators program, I expected that a year from now I would already like have my business launch. I would already like be making sales and everything. And I guess I realized that it takes a lot of time to build a business, and it's like really important that you get the foundation correct, and also that your program or your project that you're trying to start is likely going to change from like the beginning from when you're applying all the way to like the end of the program. Like I remember I applied to start a modest activewear brand, and then I realized that just was not something that I wanted to do, and that there was already a lot of brands that already existed. And so I was like, I might like create my own label and sell my own clothes. And then I realized that, there's already a lot of modest fashion brands that already exist. So I realized that, I kind of wanted to like curate modest fashion from already existing brands and then like sell them under one platform, like under one platform that I start. And so that was also like the business idea that I pitched for DECA. And I guess it kind of just taught me that like this idea is like bigger than something that I imagined like 1 year ago. And so whatever you start applying for, it's likely going to change like towards the end of the program, and it's likely going to change for a good reason, and that doesn't mean that like what you started off like trying to do isn't a good idea. Like Naomi said, like change is good, and so yeah, just utilize all the resources that you get through this program, and yeah.
That's a word, because I think a lot of folks get worried. Oh, like, do I have to do the thing I applied with? When you're
Mm-hmm.
applying, give us the idea that you have generally, especially if it's something like nascent, right? Like it's just getting started. And then the point of the program is to grow that idea. Of course, if
Yeah.
you have an idea that you like, I really want to do this, we're going to help you do it. So it doesn't have to change. We won't force change, right? But a lot of innovators find that they have that experience that Amina had. Any other learnings from the beginning to the like where we are now? Yeah,
I I hope, can you guys hear me, by the way? I'm by this vending machine that's kind of loud.
we can hear you loud and clear. And honestly, the light is just hitting like perfect. Yes.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm trying to think of where to start because there've been so many different learnings for me. Not, I don't even want to like, I'm not over exaggerating, but my project and my experience in the Innovators program has literally changed the trajectory of my life. When I was applying for the Innovators program, I was working in tech and I was kind of, I didn't really, I don't know, my heart wasn't really in it, and I was still deciding what it is I wanted to do. And so I had this idea. A couple of mentors sent it to me, and I was like, let me just fill out this application and see where it goes. And I was working 8 hours and then coming home and then like spending the rest of the night working on this application, like actually entertaining the idea that it could be real. Um, and it was just a crazy time. But once I got into the program, for me, I think something that came up for me was a little bit of imposter syndrome, like feeling like, whoa, like I am in this program and like experiencing some doubt in that. But just being around the amazing people in the cohort and the facilitators as well is so grounding and inspiring that eventually I began to feel like, yeah, you know what? I do feel like I deserve to be here. And I feel like when you're in this program, you feel you can feel really held and supported in what it is that you want to do. And I remember just being kind of taken aback. I was like I was like, wow, they actually care about this passion of mine and they're actually invested in this. And that's something honestly I wasn't used to before. And another thing, like I mentioned before, with more information, because you're going to be talking to people about the project, especially if you have a project that's kind of based in, you know, community building. You're going to be talking and getting a lot of input. And so your initial idea might shift. But again, I want to reiterate that that isn't a bad thing. And I would say keep an open mind because there are so many opportunities. I think at times when we have tunnel vision, there's things that we can miss. Important things that are kind of life changing. But I'll stop there and hear from the other individuals.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Naomi. I feel like you said everything, and yeah, I promise you, I did not prep anybody to say any of these things. They're just like literally, I'm like, this is why I end up crying because it means a lot to hear that people feel seen and valued and supported. That's like literally me and Cam's job. So to hear that back is just lovely. So thank you, Naomi. Um, Jenna, Rio, I'm curious if y'all have any thoughts about like what you learned from like when you first started out in the program versus like where you ended up.
Yeah, I think in similar regards, I think I I became very aware that everyone is learning on the job. There's not any one person who really has it all the way figured out. And I think there's a lot of ideas of perfection that I was like holding on to as far as like how I wanted it to be delivered, how I wanted it to be experienced. And I realized like very quickly that I'm not like I don't like being a novice. I don't like not knowing how to do something off top. And yeah, like the program challenged me in the ways that I wanted it to be challenging. Like I learned to get out of my head and to really put things on paper and practice them in real time. And I think that's the beauty of it, to have a place where you can really just um, feel the support of like other peers who are also figuring it out with you and have opportunities to post and work out these things in real time. I was really grateful. One of the more profound things for me during that experience was being able to host a workshop. I know, Naomi, you hosted one last week, like the last intervention. I'm really bummed I wasn't able to show up, but I think it's really, really great that there's a system to be able to like create and kind of platform yourself and practice with other peers and see how it delivers. Um, and so yeah, I think honestly speaking, I was really grateful for that like incubator period of time of testing, tinkering, figuring out what did work. And at the end, what ended up happening was I just started. That's the best way I can say. Like sometimes like you won't have it all the way figured out. Like I had to learn how to set how to do call listings for a film cast. They were expecting me to like have the organization structure. I had to feed people on set. I was like, I have to do all these things. And I did it like it was my first time. And the beauty of that is that teacher, like the experience is the teacher. And I'm so grateful that I actually just went for it. And I actually just got the experience of being able to say, now I have a film that I can then share with people. And the next time I'm doing this film again, I have the ability to feel confident that I can show up for myself and show up for my team and do what it is I need to do. So allow yourself grace, allow yourself to experiment, and just know that we're all here trying to figure it all out. So this is the perfect time to mess up and stumble your way to progress.
Literally. Literally. I saw some video that said like we when you fail in the gym, it's like a good thing, but then when we fail in life, it's a negative thing. But like literally every time I talk to Rio, I learn a little bit more about how to be expansive in my mindset about failure. And like the truth of the matter is, I like the way you put it, this is a perfect place to tinker and get that experience to like feel more confident, beat imposter syndrome, and just do the thing. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, her Rio's tea ceremony, chef's kiss. It was amazing. Amazing. Jen, any thoughts from you? And feel free to say, everybody said what I thought, but definitely want to make some space to hear from you about your experience from the beginning of the cohort to now.
Yeah, for sure. I know that we were talking about it, especially at the last meeting about like public speaking and stuff. And I'm not always the best at speaking in front of a crowd. I'm trying to work on that, and I'm still actively, obviously, working on that. But I'd say everyone had really good points. One thing that I wanted to mention is that specifically with the one-on-one online video chats with Naomi, she has allowed me to question my own thinking so much in such a good way. And that's a really big compliment. Like, I promise. The way that I might throw an idea and the way that you're able to ask like questions that are from all angles, that any situation, it was an amazing eye opener to me of just like, well, what if? Well, what if? And I think when I promote this innovator program to everyone I talk to, I say, you're going to question so many things, but it's so good and it is so fulfilling because everything turns out much better than what it would have been without. So that's what I want to add.
Chef's kiss on that, because honestly, yes, I just dropped in the chat. What if is actually a framework for innovating. It's like provocation technique where you just sit there and you think about the problem you're trying to solve and you start saying, what if this, what if that, what if this? And then you do throw out all these crazy things and you kind of start to pinpoint the principle of what makes that idea solve that problem and move slow. It can get very complicated, but what if is such a question that I highly encourage everyone to ask as you're innovating, because we don't have to be static and rigid in our thinking during this program. You really can innovate like to the sky's limit. You could change course. And Jenna mentioned our coaching sessions. That may sound like way more intense than it actually is. We literally just get on a Zoom. I say, hey, how's it going? We talk a little bit and then it's like, yeah, how's your project going? And folks will bring up the things that are going well, the things that aren't going well. And we, in the meeting, I love this word, tinker on how do we, kind of fix the things that maybe aren't going the way we thought they would be going. But to get back to the panel, I see we're almost at time, so I'm going to just ask one more question. And you may have already kind of hinted at this because folks talked about, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, kind of being open to your idea changing, all of those things. I'm curious if you could give folks on this webinar right now who are on the fence about applying, if you could give them any advice, what advice would you give them?
I can go for first again.
What? I'm sorry?
I can go first again.
Oh, yeah, please.
Basically, I feel like, if you're on the fence of applying, I feel like you should really give it a shot, just because this program, like I said earlier, like it has the opportunity to open so many doors for you. And even if you go in thinking like, this is what I want to do, or like, you have an idea and you're not really sure on how you're going to execute it, this program has a lot of resources and it has a lot of opportunities for you to like expand on that idea and like turn it into reality. And even if like you don't have like a set idea or like you're not 100% sure on like what you want to do, I feel like when you're in the program and you learn all these things and like you have access to all these resources, you will get to a point where like it's kind of like as you walk the way unfolds, I guess. When I was starting building a business, I was like, where do I even start? Where do I find manufacturers? How do I like get customers? Like all these things, but like you just got to take the step, and as you walk, the way will unfold. So I say definitely give it a shot, apply, and future you will thank you.
I have a question. Is the advice for people who are on the fence to applying or just in general?
Let's make it general, right? Like, or people on the fence. I guess I really just want to hear your advice to the folks in the room right now who are thinking about applying. What advice would you give them for completing their application? Maybe let's say that. But I really loved what you said, Amina. You get hit us with a bar as you walk the way unfolds. But Naomi, what advice were you thinking about?
I guess what's coming up for me is kind of different than the prompt.
Go ahead and riff. Go off.
I think if this is a project that's really, really close to okay, there's actually two things. The one thing about like applying, I would say just apply because I think it's more a matter of when you're a part of the program versus if you're going to be part of the program. So just, even if this cycle you're not part of the cohort, just apply again next year. And then another thing I was going to say is if this is a project that's really like close to your heart, it's going to likely change you in more ways than you probably anticipate. I know I've spoken a lot about change, but I think staying open-minded about it, about your project, how you relate to your project, because you're going to talk to so many different people, like so many different amazing people. I would definitely recommend to actually go out of your way to reach out and connect to them and utilize that network because I don't know, I feel like sometimes people feel a little hesitant to actually use their network or reach out to people. But I feel like though that is the thing that um propelled my project forward a lot is just being able to, yeah. And people do want to help. Like people have been so nice and supportive and giving me feedback. And I think honestly, I when I first started my project, I was like kind of speedy, but now my project is kind of after getting more information, I feel like my project is kind of a slow burn, and I learned to be okay with that. But I feel like everything is just working out as it goes, and I don't know, you'll be okay. Like you'll be okay. And another thing is Cam and Naomi, the way they've because it was tough during the winter and they were really super supportive. They will literally breathe life back into you and your project if you're having doubts or, just on the fence and not knowing what to do.
Thanks, sis. Jenna, Rio, any advice for folks applying?
Apply.
Apply, get it in.
Apply. No, I'm telling you, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself. You're gonna learn about a lot about accountability. You're gonna learn a lot about uh I changed my relationship to money. I realized a lot of the excuses that I had around making things happen was bound to money, and I realized I'm actually quite resourceful. Um, you learn to open up your network and your relationships with people. This is not just like a one and done thing. Like I'm telling you, like this has become the launch of many things. I was able to do another fellowship after this program. I've been able to do more grants since this program, and you get a work sample from being able to like have something final and complete and tangible. Like there's nothing like being able to create something from your mind. There's nothing more powerful than that. And so I would say apply for yourself, apply for your future. It's all going to be worth it, I guess.
Period. I do want to just make space, Jenna, if you have any final thoughts for us on your advice, we're open to assist.
There's literally you will only benefit from this program. There's no like you're not going to lose anything. You're not going to lose your time. They make space for time. You're not going to lose any other opportunity. Like this is the opportunity you should take because not only do you get money, you get so many other resources that are just beyond even just saying them in one Zoom call. But I'd even just say for the application process, something that I really did to because I know the questions can be pretty heavy. I sat with myself and just kind of would just jot on actual paper kind of what my thoughts were because I did the essays in my application. But even for the video, just writing down, jotting what's really important to you and hit those markers. And then as well, once you are done with your application, I would recommend showing it to maybe a family member or someone who knows that you're applying so they can just give you a little bit of feedback.
Amazing, amazing advice, and leads us into our next section, which is going to be about a little bit about the application. I know we're running real close up on time, but I wanted to create a lot of space for you to hear directly from the innovator. So can you join me in giving them a round of applause for sharing their wisdom, their expertise, and their time with us on this Friday evening. Thank y'all so much. I can't wait to be back in town in June and to celebrate the close of this cohort. Yeah, thank y'all so much. Okay, so just quick program application timeline. Applications are now open. We're in the webinar. Deadline to apply is May 11th at midnight. I love that Jenna was giving advice on the application. The application gives you two options. You can give us written responses, or you can make a video, and the video can be just you talking to us on your phone. Like, we do not judge at all. I will say this, your answers don't have to be perfect. So fight the urge to make everything super perfect. Just give us your ideas in writing or video. In June, we have that participatory grant making committee that comes together. They will make the decisions on who gets into the cohort, and then you'll be notified in August. We kick off at this really dope event in September. It's called the Power Up Summit, where we get every single program, the YWI, together. We have an amazing facilitator. I've been to 2 of them. I have a great time every year. And we get to hear from the Women's Foundation. It's really fun. That'll be the official kickoff, and then we'll have our first convening right after, in terms of like our in-person convening. And then our program, we'll have our last convening June 2027, and then you'll have 2 more months with us to support you in closing out the spending of your grant and your project. Let me just move some windows around from Zoom, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so that's that. And then, like we said, how to apply. There's going to be 2 applications. So let me just show you real quick. When you come, there'll be 2 applications. If you're new, you've never done the program before, you'll fill out the new applicants form. If you've done the program before, because you can do this program multiple times as long as you're between the ages of 16 and 24. You're going to fill out the returning applicants form. Again, give us some basic personal information. Your proposal narrative can either be written or submitted via video. And then we'll ask you to just play around with the budget. Tell us what you're imagining spending the budget on. Again, you don't have to stick to this because your project might change, but we're curious, like, how do you envision spending the money? And then if you at any point, you can also give us your resume, photos, website, any assets or collateral that you think are important for us to see. You'll have the ability to drop that into the application. Those things are optional, not required, but sometimes people do like to send us a little bit more context. And then if you have any application issues, you'll email Shawnee, who's going to be our ops guru. She's going to help you with that. If you have any program questions, I think I may be wrong, but I feel like Naomi, after this webinar last year, did we like communicate via email? It may have been somebody else, but I went back and forth with folks on email. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I remember. It was like, if you have any questions after this webinar, email me. We'll talk about it. I can help you think through your project. I can't write the application for you. That would be highly unethical, but I can definitely help you get to a point where you feel confident submitting your application. So feel free to reach out. And then with that, yeah, please.
I
No.
just have a quick question. I saw your message in the chat. So can there be like a gap in between your 2 times?
Yeah, as long as you are between the ages of 16 and 24. You have to be 24 by the August of the program start. So
Okay.
I believe, LaCour, correct me if I'm telling a tale here, but I believe
Yes.
as long as you're 24 by August, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and you don't have to join consecutively. You can take a gap year or take a couple years in between. And then if you do decide come up with a big idea that you want to, or a small idea that you want to pursue, feel free to join as like a returning innovator.
Yes. Thank you so much for that clarification and that question, Naomi. Any questions from the group? We're happy to answer some now. I know that we're past 7 o'clock, so if anybody has to drop, feel free. I'm happy to stay on for a little bit and answer questions that folks might have. In the meantime, though, can we give it up one more time for the Women's Foundation? Can we give it up one more time for our panel? They were so amazing. Y'all just give us life, for real, especially in
Panel
this
gave
crazy
me all
time.
the fees. I would have been crying at the end too. I think I have cried at the end.
It was an ugly cry. It was like a
That
keep it
Oprah
together.
cry, we did it, y'all.
No,
Because
exactly.
you got 3K and you got 3K and you got 3K and we did it.
No, for real. And it has not been the easiest of years. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's
No,
been
it
a
has
very
not.
challenging time. So, yeah, we hope to see a lot of your applications come in. If there's no questions, again, we'll follow up. I'll follow up this webinar with an email. We'll send out the recording. I'll send out our contact information. We're here to help you every step of the way.
Yes, I put my email in the chat as well. And I would be excited to talk to you guys about more about my experience, or even just like any questions you have to.
Yeah, feel free to use any of the folks that you heard from today as a resource. Like, you can hit them up for one-on-ones and, ask them questions too. But yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's really a network, just of amazing human beings trying to make the world a better place, like Cam mentioned at the start. So thank y'all so much. I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening. Again, if anybody has questions, you can hand back. I'm happy to answer them, but if not, I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday and start to your weekend. And we can't just wait to see your applications come in. Apply,
Yay.
apply, apply.
Apply, apply, apply. Thank you, y'all. Peace and please be well.
Yes. Talk soon, everybody.
I did have one question before I left.
Mhm.
Yeah, so whether or not I get accepted into the program, I have a podcast and I would really love to have like some of the women here on the panel like be on my show because I do want to like connect with more people in Minneapolis and more community members. That's like the basis of my show. I connect with like content creators, musical creatives, and a whole bunch of different artists and stuff like that. So I feel like this program would be like a really good way to like make it be known in the city and then also to my viewers as well too because I do like to focus on like educational aspects and just letting women know that like there are other ways such as non-traditional ways of school and this could be a path for them. So just wanted to put that out there just in case.
Alexa, Alexa, we got some work to do. Yeah, Alexa's out. Yep, she's helping us get the word out. So I think that there's definitely a lot that we can do there. We also want to support the podcast. So maybe after this, I can send us an email just connecting us on email and then we could take it from there.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much. What's the podcast name?
The Blogging with B podcast.
Blogging with B. Love it.
So it's two G's inside of blogging, like Dog with the Blog, that TV show on Disney, and then podcast.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Nice. Dope. Yeah, we're really excited to work together. That's super exciting. And I hope you apply too, because that we did actually have a project in the last cohort that was
Mhm.
incorporated a podcast for STEM professionals who like to get the word out about STEM. So that's
Okay.
definitely a project that we could see being a good fit for the cohort.
Okay, dope. I also have my little sister apply too, so that'd be great.
Please. Yeah, I forgot to say that. I'll send this in the follow-up email. Send the application around. We love it.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Blessing. Any other questions? I see that we got some other folks in here. If not, I am gonna let my good folks from the Women's Foundation start their weekend. They worked really hard this week.
Um,
Oh, we got a
quick
question?
question. Yes.
Yes.
You just mentioned that there was another podcast that was a part of the cohort and it was more science based.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be social impact then.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
They're part of the blueprint they were focused on. They had a couple different, but the one that I can distinctly remember was about the shifting of narratives. So the purpose of the podcast, this was Disha, who's an innovator from last year, was to, or was it Disha? Let me not get that wrong. This was Gusmirat from last year. They had the STEM podcast to shift the narratives of like what it means to be in STEM, to incorporate more women's voices.
Okay.
And I do want to say, like, if you have a similar idea, that doesn't mean you can't apply with it. There's how you say like there's plenty to go around. There's like a lot of space for the ideas, even if they're similar.
Okay. Sounds good. It's more based around health, wellness, and public health, but it's a podcast pretty much.
Love it. Yeah, definitely apply with the idea. If yeah, if you're able to, we would love to consider you in the application pool.
Alrighty. Thank you, ladies, so much. And you guys have a nice evening.
You too, love. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. Let me just stop the recording.